Welcome to all audience members who chose to be in the session of Smart Mobility for the deep dive. And moving right along, we're just going to go more into the topic of smart mobility, focusing on collaboration for multimodal transportation system as our topic. And in this session, experts accompanying the mobility systems towards low carbon future in Jakarta, Berlin, and Bangkok will discuss the initiative design from Jakarta to develop a better transportation information system. But in overall, to support us and provide an overall introduction to this topic, I herewith invite Mr. Ramos Pandia as Chief Operating Officer from Hukum Online to open the session. Mr. Ramos, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Ibu Mira. My voice is clear, yeah? You can hear me?
Your voice is clear.
All right. So let me present my slide. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ramos Pandia, and I'm here representing our consortium that currently working with the Smart Change program in Jakarta in conducting multi-stakeholder dialogue and also policy dialogue in 7 pillars of Smart City in Jakarta. In this particular event session, I would like to share with you our result for the Smart Mobility pillar that has been conducted some months ago, right? So this consortium consists of 2 organizations, which is Hukum Online and Ruang Waktu. So both of us combine our strength and our experience in regulation and policy drafting regarding various urban challenges. So we will also talking about appropriate and important policy recommendation in order to guard this initiative to be well implemented in the future. So as was mandated to us, we will run 50 multi-stakeholder dialogue and 12 policy dialogues. Will result in 15 pilot initiatives and 20 policy recommendations. So far we have been conducted several sessions, and I'll share with you which pillars and what is the result, particularly in smart mobility. So these are the differences between multi-stakeholder and policy dialogue. In the multi-stakeholder dialogue, we are focusing on collecting insights from various members of the citizens and stakeholders in Jakarta, coming from citizens, universities, experts, and also from the government officials. So we are looking for ideas and what kind of actions that we can do together to tackle those issues. So the result of the multi-stakeholder dialogue is pilot initiatives. And the second one is the policy dialogue. So we have the pilot initiative already in our hand. So how to make sure that this will be well implemented, and there is a regulation framework that will make sure this is happening. So we focus on regulations. What is the existing regulation that is related to this initiative? Is it enough, or there is some policy gap in there that we need to fill and to advocate together? So we will very focus on the policies of certain issues here, and the result is the policy recommendation towards the Jakarta City government on what kind of regulation that is need to be strengthened or need to be formulated in order to make this pilot initiative work properly. So these are the sessions that we've already conducted. The first one was the mobility on 7 and 8 April. I will share with you shortly what is the result. But we are very happy so far. We've been conducted multi-stakeholder dialogue and policy dialogue for smart mobility, smart environment, smart economy, smart health, and smart people. And we are thankful because there is a very great engagement from the Jakarta Smart City Unit and also the Jakarta City government, especially on the opening on 3 and 4 March this year. We have Mr. Governor attending and opening the session. Moving on, I would like to share with you 3 pilot initiatives from the smart mobility. The first one is the collaborative public campaign for orderly use of public space and transportation. You know, there's an issue in Jakarta where public spaces is being occupied by tenants and some other forms of activities that is makes people inconvenient in using public spaces. The second one is the information platform for environmentally friendly multimodal transportation. This one is coming from our discussion that currently we don't have such technology application that combine, from first mile to last mile, what kind of environmentally friendly transportation that I can use from 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 my house to the destination that I'm going to. So it will be very interesting to hear from Sebastian about Jelbi, and also hearing from Ibu Faela what is going on in Jakarta right now in order to make this happen. The third initiative is safer sidewalks and intersections. And based on our discussion, we have pedestrians that there's no lights, there's no CCTV in there, so people feel insecure to use that facilities, especially during night. So this is another pilot initiative that we would like to advocate that every public spaces, especially pedestrians, in the connection to the station, there must be completed with appropriate lighting and CCTVs. Moving on to the policy recommendation. So we divided into two. One is the push strategy, and another one is the pull strategy. On the push strategy, we advocate and we formulate policies on reducing the use of private motorcycle. So currently we have this ganjil genap and also parking tarif. What one of the program that we would like to advocate together is the electronic road pricing. I think this kind of mechanism is already being implemented in some other cities around the world. So I think it is very important for Jakarta as well to implement this as soon as possible and combine with AI technology to monitor the people's mobility. It's been in the discussion in the media, in the political spectrum right now, but it hasn't been implemented yet. Second one is the pull strategy. Aims to encourage people to shift, from private motor vehicle to environmental friendly public transportation. The challenge for this strategy will be the integration of the multimodal transportation that currently operating in Jakarta, and also with the transit-oriented development, public campaign, and electronic law enforcement. So we believe that in order for this to be effectively implemented, uh, there should be law enforcement. So we need to push. We need to push people at first in order to be able, and in order for them to use this. So I think that is the introduction from me about our multi-stakeholder and policy dialogue. Would love to hear more from best practices from Sebastian and also Ibu Faela uh, in our next discussion. Thank you, Mira.
Thank you so much to you, yeah, Pak Ramos. And yeah, as you already mentioned, we're very happy to be joined today by our speakers, and I'm just going to mention them as you already have been before. So we have today Ms. Faela Sufa as Southeast Asia Director from Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. A good afternoon to you. And then we also have Mr. Sebastian Wolf as the project lead for Jelbi. And then we have Dr. Yossapong Laoonual as head of Mobility and Vehicle Transportation Research Center, or MOVE, of the King Mongkut University of Technology, Thonburi. So it'll be an interesting session, definitely. And I hope with our first of those three speakers, I would like to pass on the screen to Ms. Faela Sufa, Southeast Asia Director of the Institute for Transportation and Development, to share her perspective. So a good afternoon to you, and the screen is yours.
Thank you, Mira. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, Let me share my presentations. So can you see my screen?
Yes, perfectly visible.
Yeah. So currently I will have a presentation on smart mobility to enable seamless multimodal integrations, study case from Jakarta. Uh, I would like to explain a bit about ITDP before I continue my presentation. So, ITDP, or Institute for Transportation and Development Policy, is a non-profit organization which is established in 1985. It's already more than 35 years. We have our headquarters in New York to create a sustainable and inclusive transportation in the world. So we have like several team of programs that we are currently working on. First is public transportations and also innovations, including electrifications, and then non-motorized transport, which is walking and cycling, transit-oriented development, transit demand management, such as parking, and also sustainable urban design. Uh, yeah, so as we know that all of the public transport journey is a multimodal journey. Why? Because if we want to take transit or public transport, usually we will have like first and last mile connectivity using walking and also cycling. It's a bit different when we are taking private vehicles. Usually, private vehicles provide like journey from start to the end. So this is our challenge to make our sustainable transport with the walking, cycling, and public transport to be more seamless. So um, to have like a seamless integration, so we cannot yeah, we should have also like what is it called, integrated development in our cities, because to prioritize walking, cycling, and using public transport, we used to have like development that or, development that are improved in the what is in the city center. It's not. It shouldn't be like a scratchers developments. So urban planning is also the key towards seamless integration to get like our origin to destination walkable, or it's can be achieved by cycling or using public transport. So we should have integrated development within our cities. And then between public transport itself, to have like seamless integrations, there are what is it called, requirement to have like physical integration, fare and payment integrations, operational integration, information system integration. We should have one institutional integrations before we could achieve all of these four integration. That's what Jakarta is currently facing the challenge, because we already have like four major transit system in Jakarta, which is the road-based system, Transjakarta, and also another three rail-based, commuter rail, MRT, and also the LRT Jakarta. So the challenge now is how to have like multimodal integration to be more seamless. And then to answer, this is the actually the left side of this diagram is the challenge that currently happening in Jakarta. So as we understand that we have Transjakarta, MRT, and also LRT Jakarta, but between those three, there is no collective achievement or synergy in achieving the target between the company, even though they are under the same government of DKI Jakarta. And then people living in Jakarta not only taking Transjakarta, MRT, or LRT because we are living in the metropolitan Jakarta, so sometimes we need to take the commuter line, and in the future maybe the LRT Jabodetabek. But because those two public transport system is under the national government, so there is also no synergy or a common achievement between the government, between the provincial government and also the national government. So we actually already have the institution that should coordinate the transportation system around Jakarta, which is BPTJ. But there is the role of BPTJ is only more on the supervisions. So Jakarta realized the challenges. So they currently moving forward to have like institutional like integrations. So the idea is to integrate, to have like integrations between all of the operators, public transport operators, which under Jakarta Provincial Government or under the national government into one integrations system. So to answer the challenge, this is like the first step before we have like the whole holding company. So there is a existing companies to accelerate the integration public transport system in DKI Jakarta. The first that the DKI Jakarta's form is MITJ. It's a joint venture between the MRT Jakarta and Kereta Api Indonesia under the national government, under the MOT to support public transportation integrations and carry out the station revitalization across metropolitan Jakarta. It's been established since last year, and then the integration that should be covered in this joint venture is physical integration, service integration, management integration, information integration, and also brand integrations. And there also a joint venture between the operators, public transport operators within in Jakarta, which is called Jaklingko. It's between the MRT Jakarta, Jakarta Propertindo, Transjakarta, and also the MITJ. It's established last year also. So the Jaklingko will integrate payment system, tariff, and public transport routes between MRT Jakarta, LRT Jakarta, Transjakarta, KRL commuter, and also railing. The last institution is the Integrasi Transit Jakarta or ITG. This is also the joint venture between MRT Jakarta, Transjakarta. So the main purpose of this institution is to manage the TOD along the transit corridors. So there are actually issues of physical integrations in Jakarta that we still can see in several transit area which have narrow and block and also not inclusive for pedestrians. And the access such as bridge is very long, and then it's not inclusive as well for the wheelchair, and even there is no pedestrian facilities near the transit stations. So the physical integrations could actually be improved by improving the walkability near the transit station, for example, like 500 meters near the radius 500 meters near the transit stations, or Jakarta also develop the network of bicycles. So this is the example of our proposed design of near the transit stations, and then also integration between two modes in Jakarta, which is road-based system of Transjakarta and also road-based system of LRT Jabodetabek. So the station area should be universal accessibility, and it should also having like additional facilities such as bicycle access facilities. So Jakarta also develop the fare and payment integration. For example, the integrations within the Transjakarta system. So they already have smart card and also QR code. So there is no more physical payment. So it should be using the electronification of the payment system. And then as Transjakarta has like three kind of services, which is BRT, non-BRT, and microtrans services. So they also introduce the integration, which is cap the highest fare only like 5,000 if they have to transfer between the services. So there are also upcoming initiative to integrate the fare system between all of the major transit system in Jakarta, whether it's under the provincial government and also the national government, which is the commuter rail under the Jaklingko scheme. This is the example of operational integrations within road-based system. So Transjakarta, under Transjakarta, Jakarta's integrated the microtrans, which is paratransit system, into the BRT system in order to enhance the coverage of the system. So almost all of the paratransit system now is already integrated into Transjakarta system. So they should also follow the level of service of Transjakarta. So with the microtrans, so they already carry 250,000 passengers per day. This is the data before COVID. So this is the map of how impactful of the integration of microtrans, because as we know that Transjakarta now is already have like 13 corridor, but with the integrations with the microtrans or angkot, if we call it in Jakarta, so the coverage of the services is expand to around like 82% of Jakarta's populations. And so we also like Jakarta also like develop the information system integrations to improve the passengers experience with the in order to get like seamless mobility. So if we are using public transport, so there should be an applications that tell us the duration of the route, the departure time, and then maybe like if we going to use like a bicycle, so they also can tell us where is the bike parking location and also availability of the bike parking or the transit stations. And if we take the transit station, there should be like information on the transit schedule and routes, and then transfer amount, durations, ticket fare, and also station and fleet density. And if we can compare if we are using private vehicles, so maybe like duration of the routes and the fare of use of penalties, for example, because of passing the locations of road pricing or the ERP or toll road, or how much the fuel cost that we are going to spend. And if we are using a taxi, what is the fare of a taxi of the ride hailing? And if we are using private vehicle, what is the fare of the parking fee and also parking availability? So we should provide accurate multimodal journey information, including walking and cycling. And the private vehicle cost information needs also to be shown to give balanced informations. And another integration that currently being developed is information system integrations to create seamless multimodal journey and enhance the understanding of physical environments. It could help us to understand the travel options and then find transit station or transfer between transit stations, and to navigate unfamiliar surrounding or novel transit use conditions, and can also use to inform the user or passenger about nearby or transit accessibility destinations. Next is information system integrations. For multimodal journey information. This is the real-time passenger informations. Example from several cities in Indonesia, in the world, including from Jakarta. So Transjakarta has the application called TJku, and then in London, we in the transit station, they provide the real-time traffic informations. And then there's also application of the bike sharings availability from the bicycle bike sharing providers. So this is all of the information is provided to have like a real-time crowd at station and also at fleet, and then real-time fleet position, real-time bike share availability, and then real-time bike parking availability, and real-time road traffic as well. And the next is intermodal and multimodal trip planner. So, for example, that Transjakarta has using the TJku, they can provide the walking journey and also the trip journeys inside the bus. And in London, if we use the city mapper, they're going to provide multimodal trip planning. So this kind of application could help user or passenger to plan their seamless multimodal journey. So they will know arrival and departure time, and then there also information on the cost and the time comparison and integration with other non-motorized transportation, for example, with the bike sharing system that available in that city. So there's also challenges to achieve the seamless integrations. We are identifying 5 challenges here. The first is usually to integrate all of the different operators. For example, in Jakarta, Transjakarta, MRT, and also LRT, we need to have one entity uh, uh, for transportation operators. And then, yeah, we recommend to have one holding company under the government of Jakarta. And then the data availability and the data sharing policy as well. Sometimes it's really difficult to get the data, as the data is very important, for example, for design planning. So then we recommend that data collection, data infrastructure, and data sharing policy should be improved. And minimum real-time information system infrastructure is not available, so we should provide that kind of infrastructure. And there is also an integrated digital information system between different kind of modes. So the digital information system integration should be available and integrated uh, between all of the modes that are available in that city. And then inclusivity is also very important. Sometimes the introduction of digital access is not inclusive. So we need to also consider that uh, the sometimes not all of the digitalization could be accessible for all of the people. So we need to provide the option for that. Yeah, I think that's all for my presentations. I will give it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Faela. It's been an interesting how to learn a little bit more about the perspective and the challenges that we actually have in our city, and this complexity, and to learn how actually information systems can be very easing the life that we have here as citizens in Jakarta. So thank you very much. I would just follow on with introducing our next speaker, which is Mr. Sebastian Wolf, project lead of Jelbi, and he will be introducing the app as such. So I give you the word. Hello and good morning to you.
Hello and good morning to you. Thank you for having me today. So let me just try and share the presentation that we have here. Just give me a second, please.
Yeah, sure. So while Mr. Wolf is pulling up the presentation, I would just like to remind you, all audience members, you will have a possibility to engage more with all the speakers later in the deep dive sessions that will later be moderated by Mr. Ramos. So then I forward you the screen.
Thank you. Can you let me know if you can see the presentation, all right?
Yes, we can see the presentation within the window. If you'd like to go on full screen, that would be great. Okay, now it's full screen. Thank you.
All right, that is good. All right. Well, thanks again for having me today. It's a pleasure and an honor to be speaking here today and to present to you Jelbi, the mass solution that we've been developing here in Berlin for the last roughly 3 years. My name is Sebastian. I'm project lead for the Jelbi app, which means that together with my team here at BBG and our development partner at Trafi, ensure that the Jelbi app is both running smoothly and that we also develop the service further. Before I dive right in, maybe some quick facts about us as BBG. We're Germany's biggest local transit operator, or public transit operator. We operate the city's buses, streetcars, subways, trains, ferry, and as I have learned, also one rolling boat. So altogether more than 300 vehicles on more than 200 vehicles. Yeah. On a normal year that is not dominated by a pandemic, we deliver more than 1 billion rides annually. There are roughly 15,000 people working for us today. So not all of them are working en masse. Many of them are also driving, maintaining the traditional services. But there's also a good portion of us working on innovative services such as Jelbi. So to dive right in, let's ask the question, why are we doing this? You see the number of cars that we have in the city is rising. We now have more than 1 million cars in the city. And if that is enough, we expect that the city will grow, which will add another 100,000 cars by 2030. So of course, the cars themselves, they are not the problem, but the congestion and pollution that they create, as well as the space that they're taking up. But of course, we do know that the cars are not the problem. Well, I mean, most of the time they're standing still, taking up space, not creating any use. It means that a small number of them actually would be enough if they were collectively used to be shared to fulfill the mobility needs of the same number of individuals. So in fact, we calculated that 300,000 cars would be roughly enough to get the job done, making 3 out of 4 cars irrelevant, freeing a huge area and building from metal plastic irrelevant. And I've done some Googling and I've learned that, apparently Jakarta has also a reputation for congestion and traffic. So I really feel like Jakarta and Berlin are on the same page here and able to relate to one another when it comes to traffic. So I've also mentioned that the concept of sharing that can help make Berliners less reliant on their own cars. And obviously the concept of sharing is central to that idea of a car that has less cars in them. And therefore we, as BBG, we've made it one of the pillars of our strategy. Berlin steigt roughly translates into the next switch. And in this case, making the switch from privately owned cars to shared mobility, and also from fossil fuels to electric mobility. When it comes to electrification, there are some obvious things that we as a public transport operator can do, like invest in our electric fleet, for instance. I will not focus on that here. But when it comes to sharing, it's not quite so obvious what we can do and what we are doing. So let's focus on that. And the guiding question that we have, or that we had when starting Jelbi, was, what if I always had the right mode of transportation in any given situation? Like an e-scooter to go shopping, bicycles to ride around in the city, in the neighborhood, scooters for the last and the first mile to the doorsteps of the station, like we just learned in the presentation before, public transit to commute to work every day. Yes, also cars for the spontaneous getaway, and obviously ride-sharing and taxis, maybe to get home after a night out. So effectively, if I had all those options available in a convenient and affordable manner, I would not need my own car anymore. So that is basically the guiding question that we have had in our mind ever since. So how are we getting there? What are we doing? We decided to start an experiment, and we've partnered with a company called Trafi, which is a mass platform startup from Lithuania, and we have developed an app that acts as a one-stop shop, basically, if you want, for mobility in Berlin. This means that instead of using a different app for each provider and each service, you only need to register once. You need to add your details, your payment method, etc. once, verify your phone number, driver's license, etc. once, and you get to use all the services that we have integrated in there so far. The app shows you the available mobility options around you on the map. We have a route search that shows you all the different options that you have to get from A to B, be it with public or with shared mobility, including the time it will take and the rough amount of money that it will cost you based on real-time traffic and availability information. And once you have chosen your transport, your preferred mode of transport, you're able to easily reserve and unlock all the vehicles, providing you with an easy-to-use and easy-to-understand instruction and unified user experience across all the different modes that we have in there. We do not work with a deep link, jumping into other apps, but we deliver everything inside the Jelbi app. So everything you see in Jelbi can actually be used and put in Jelbi. And whatever you choose to use in Jelbi, you only pay what you use. There are no surcharges or fees for using Jelbi. And lastly, users can find all the trips that they have done in trip history, where they can see them and download the invoices if they need them. So as of today, there are more than 40,000 vehicles available in the Jelbi app, including our own ride-sharing and public transport vehicles, but also tens of thousands of bikes, moped cars, scooters, and taxis. And our goal is to create the single most attractive offer in every category for every mode. So as you can see with the e-scooters and mopeds, for instance, in those modes, Jelbi already today offers the biggest offer that is bigger than that of every single provider or any single provider, creating user value in terms of choice and also convenience and availability. So if the Jelbi app is there to make shared mobility digitally available to our customers, the Jelbi stations are there to bundle mobility physically in places where it becomes easily available and useful to large numbers of people. And this means that our Jelbi stations are typically located at train stations or large bus stops that is frequented by many people and offers a convenient way to transfer from public to shared transportation modes. Very simply put, Jelbi stations is a big yellow parking lot where you can find parking, charging opportunities for all the vehicles that are part of Jelbi. That means that when you're entering your Jelbi stations, when you're stepping onto Jelbi stations, there's a good chance that you'll find a broad variety of mobility options at any given moment. And besides that, there are, well, obviously opportunities for local services and partners that can be on the Jelbi stations, for instance, free Wi-Fi, a parcel station, maybe a public toilet, vending machines, etc. So on this slide, you see some impressions from 4 of our Jelbi stations in different places of Berlin, and I will just give you a second to take it in. So I would like to show you this map of the city of Berlin, where you can see the currently 36 Jelbi stations and smaller Jelbi points that we have already opened, and where they are located throughout the city. And I think this is a very good illustration of one important aspect here. First, you notice that there's an area in the middle that is surrounded by train lines. This one here. And this is in the city, basically. And this is where the majority of sharing mobility happens. This is where most of the operators have their business areas. And this is also the reason for some of the criticism towards car sharing, etc., that it only provides mobility in a very limited area. You see that some Jelbi stations are located inside that area, but some are also clearly outside the city. And what we're doing here is bringing shared mobility to areas where it would otherwise not be, and making it accessible to approximately 140,000 people who would otherwise simply not have access to those shared mobility options. The second one I would highlight is the Jelbi networks that we have opened, that you can see in the top left corner, or to the far right here. Let me dive into this one. We'll pick this district here as an example. This is a Jelbi network that provides shared mobility to a newly built neighborhood of up to 25,000 people. This neighborhood is not in the city center, as you have seen. Nevertheless, it has been designed as a low-car neighborhood. In areas like these, shared mobility access and made accessible by Jelbi is a real viable alternative to privately owned car for people who are moving into those districts. In this case, we're partnering with a local housing company, that is providing the space that we need for the Jelbi stations to put them up. But it's easy to see that this concept can be copied and adapted with other partners, such as business parks, manufacturing plants, universities, hospitals, etc. Since we're, I think, running a bit short on time, I will probably skip this timeline that I have here and maybe come to my last chart that I wanted to share with you and share with you some of the learnings that we've had throughout the last 3 years of Jelbi. But first of all, I want to make it clear that we do not have the slightest doubt in that public transportation is and must be the backbone of urban mobility. It's the most affordable, most reliable, and typically the most sustainable way of moving around. And frankly, the scale of usage also underlines this. Where providers provide, or the sharing providers provide thousands of rides per year, providing hundreds of thousands of rides, basically. But sharing providers can, of course, add additional value to public transport networks. They create flexibility. For instance, in hours with little or no PT services, they provide great coverage in areas where maybe PT is low, and they're usually locally carbon free. So while shared mobility should not compete and should not replace public transit, it can complement it. And when it comes to the question who should be in the center, facilitating, promoting that mix, by creating a holistic mass solution, we believe that public operators, cities, are in the right spot to do it. They're typically well-grounded in their respective community, they enjoy a high amount of trust, and they have a mandate to cater to the mobility needs of the population. So we're in a great spot to be operating this one. One thing that we must keep in mind, however, is that a solution like Jelbi can only reach the full potential as being seen as a puzzle piece, basically. If it's embedded in legislation and regulations that we've heard about push and pull factors, incentivize people to move out of their own cars, out of the comfort zones, and move into shared and public transportation. Well, lastly, we have learned that mass can come in many forms and shapes, and the public organizations are in very difficult or different positions to start it. Some are just operating handful of bus lines, some are already operating a full mass platform. But it's never too late to make this step into becoming this full-scale operator, full-stack operator of public services. And I would encourage everyone to, look into this strategically, as we have seen in the rest of the presentations. And with that, I would like to thank you. Go back to the studio and look forward to the next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. It's been definitely very interesting to learn how Jelbi has been integrating also the solutions to get around in Berlin. So we'll be looking forward also to further discussions. Well, I now hand over to the next speaker and also invite the next speaker to share their views to Dr. Yossapong Laoonual as head of MOVE of King Mongkut University of Technology in Thonburi. I would just need to kindly remind that you will have not, like we're short on time, and I hope that you'll be able to still share the most important insights from your perspective.
Hi.
Okay.
Yes, I understand.
Thank you.
Mila, so how many minutes should I have from here? So
if you can, around 5, if that is okay.
Okay. Right, I see. Okay. Right, no problems. I understand. So maybe I skip some of the slides. So probably I try to introduce that in Thailand we are moving into using e-mobilities. Can you see my slide and hear me well?
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
I probably skip a lot of slides. So I think when everyone talking about what is the smart mobility or what is the sustainable mobilities, I think we should consider to indicate the concept of 3 Ps that we need to. Of course, the first thing we need to think about the planet. We need to thinking about our environment, and also we should think about people who are surrounding us, how the community will be accept in all the new things. And we are not only thinking about the economics, but we need to thinking all these 3 P: the planet, people, and possibilities. And of course, when we're talking about the transport, how to make the efficient transport, I think people from the first speaker, Faela, talking about how we avoid to using non-motorized, try to use the bicycles, and then we probably try to use more on the public transport, and then the last one, if we cannot we need to use the personal transport, probably we use the most efficient vehicles. So I think this is the concept of that we try to go to the sustainable mobility, and in Thailand we try to move into into e-mobilities, which I might not go into much detail, but now because of the time, so I probably would try to skip that and bear in mind that people understand what is the electric vehicles. But I'd like to show that in Thailand we start to have the EV policies, and the air pollutions, reduce the greenhouse gas and emissions. And at the same time, we try to create a new industry, that electric vehicles, and we try that we hope that Thailand will be one of the important EV production base. And then from that we have a target that in 2035 we try to introduce that all the vehicle sale in Thailand would be zero emission vehicles, and we're setting the 10-year target we call 30 at 30, which means we try to for the electric passenger and pickup car we try to have the production which is will be 30% of total production will be the zero emission vehicles. And also we not only look at the or plan only the electric passenger or pickup car, we also look at all the various type of vehicles, the bus, the truck, electric motorcycles, and also the famous tuk-tuk in Thailand. We try to electrify all type of vehicle. So that the plan is already rolled out, and there's still some challenges, but there's some of the what we call national incentive scheme. So we have the EV investment scheme by the Thailand Board of Investments. We try thinking about how to reduce the import tax or excise tax, for zero emission vehicles, and we are preparing the infrastructure for the EV. Try to have a special price of the electricity, and we're thinking to promote the uses of the EVs at the moment, right? So if we look at the number of electric vehicle, it's growing quite well. I mean, the total number is still small for the battery EVs, but the growth rate is increasing. As we can see from last year. So I think that the battery EV is the new battery EV, the green one you see here, is increasing 2 times compared to from 2020 compared to 2019, it's increasing 2 times. And if you look at this year, just just in Q3, we have more than a number of the vehicle is more than from last year. So the number of electric vehicle is increasing. So it's the same with the charging station. The charging station is also increasing.
Yeah, Dr.
Can you still see my slide? Okay.
Yeah,
right,
just
okay.
now, right now. Might I just remind you for another minute to close your presentation? Thank you.
Okay, so the number of charging infrastructure in Thailand is increasing alongside with the new business of the charging operator and service provider. So we have the new payer, from the energies the energy sector or the electric utilities. They start a new business as a charging operator and service provider. And we also have the new company, a lot of new startup to start this EV business, which I will show you some of these interesting startup companies on the e-mobility in Thailand. So now, probably we have more than almost 700 charging location and more than 1,000 charging point, both on AC and DC, and allow Thailand. Still, mostly there are the charging station in Bangkok metropolitan area, but they are increasing. So this probably would be my last few slides because of running out of time. So this is one of the interesting public e-bus service. There will be this e-bus will be running in Bangkok metropolitan area, and this is operated by the company called Thai Smile Bus. There are a target of 500 electric bus around Bangkok. So at the moment they have 27 bus with the 10 route around Bangkok now, and the bus is operated by the Thai company called My Bus, or they are subsidiary of the on the Energy Absolute, one of the Thai companies. So this bus have been assembled and manufacturing in Thailand. Another example of this project is e-motorcycle sharing by Honda PCX Electric. This is actually the project at my university, cooperate with one of the car sharing company called Hopcar, which I will introduce it in the next slide. So this project is try to be that we will probably using the solar panels to generate electricity and can be charging into the batteries of the motorcycle that can be swappable. So we hopefully the concept of swappable motorcycle can be net zero carbons too. So these are ongoing projects. And also this startup company called Hop, there's one of the first EV sharing in Thailand, I think similar to the Sebastian introduced Jelbi, which is I think this is a Thai company that start to do the EV sharing. Sorry, they have various type of the e-mobilities from the 2-wheel and 4 wheels, and also I think that they introduced the stand-up scooter too. And also, we also have this electric tuk-tuks sharing. So running around Bangkok, they also startup companies. You know, when we are talking about tuk-tuk, I think the word tuk-tuk is coming from, you know, actually the Thai word it's actually the sounds of the engine. So when people, you know, joking that when we change to electric tuk-tuk, there's no sounds. But anyway, it's good for environments and good for Bangkok, because people would probably, when they come to Bangkok, the first thing, the thing that they must not miss is to try the tuk-tuk one. So probably next time you come to Bangkok, you can try the electric tuk-tuk running around in Bangkok's area. So Move Me is one of the first ride-hailing or the electric tuk-tuks. Okay, so this is probably my last slide. That I mean, to do this kind of the projects, you know, to changing for internal combustion engine to electric mobilities. I don't think it's that easy. You know, even we have the wrong plan to change it in 2035 that all new vehicles should be electrified or to be the zero emission vehicle or the battery EVs. But I think still, you know, not the next 15 years. So we should start now. And I think the thing is that we need to have the cooperation between the governments and people from academics like myself, and of course the companies who should be able to provide the affordable product and service, and of course the community should be aware and try to, you know, should be able to accept this kind of new technology. So all these stakeholders should be working together, and I think this is the way that we should learn and try to do the smart change in the future. I think that's it for me. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yossapong, for also cutting it short, but it's very interesting to hear like the solutions that Bangkok introduces to actually really be very, you know, massive on electric vehicles. And I hope that also will work for other cities. Now we've come to our end of this session, of this deep dive session, but no worry. I mean, also all the audience members will be able to have more discussions with the speakers later in about 1 hour after the next session. And this will be later also moderated by Pak Ramos, and we'll have also other things. You would like to add something, Pak Ramos?
Yes, I
Yeah,
just would
okay.
like to remind and invite all participants to prepare your questions. I am sure there is a lot of questions and things that you want to know more and clarify or ask for more data from our speakers. So in 1 hour, we will meet again in the deep dive session. Get ready with your questions and let's discuss further on this topic. Thank you, Mira.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for all the speakers for sharing their views. And I'll see you again in the next session. I would like to also just remind you for the audience, you will have now a break of about more 10 minutes right now, maybe from our sessions counting, as we will later resume with our physical panel discussion that is from the Asia Berlin Summit around 10:15 Asia or Southeast Asian time, Jakarta time, or 15:15 Berlin or Germany time. So until then, you can use either the networking opportunities in the breaks, or maybe just to get yourself a cup of tea or coffee. So thank you so much, and see you in the next session.